Hola TvAgro.
Hello TvAgro, my name is Dionel Pinzon. I'm a veterinarian canine trainer and technician in assisted interventions with canines. Today I'm going to talk to you about how to manage the status at home with our dogs.
Digamos, acá tenemos a nuestra compañera Mía, que es la estrella acá de la guardería. Entonces,
Here we have our partner, Mia, who is the star of the nursery. I'm going to teach you an exercise and I will show you how to manage the day-to-day of our dogs with the status at home. One of the things that we must first keep in mind when we have our dogs at home are the demands that they make of us. For example,
que en estos momentos a Mía le interesa.
I have a resource that Mia is interested in right now. She wants the ball, but I decided to raise the ball. She starts to bark. That means she wants the ball to be handed over to her. So you have to be clear about that.
¿Hasta qué punto?
How much a dog demands, how much a dog is played with at one point. Then we end the game and we continue with our daily life.
Nuestra vida cotidiana. Entonces,
Normally the status must be managed in dogs. It is also important that the people with whom the pet lives have a higher status than them,
tengan mayor estatus que el perro.
regardless of whether the family members are 2, 3, 4, 5.
4, 5. Y el perro, debemos manejar
And the dog, we must manage the status in this way.
que si el perro
The first thing, if you work on an exercise with the dog, starts and ends.
se termina. Por ejemplo, si yo voy a jugar con ella con la pelota,
For example, if I'm going to play with her with the ball, we play with the ball. Very cool, Mia, very good. And the exercise is over and we pick up the toy. The toy stays there
por ejemplo, si hacemos un ejercicio de obediencia,
for a future exercise. For example, we're going to do an obedience exercise
entonces voy caminando,
where I will tell her to look at me. Mia, look at me. Very good girl. I'm walking. Look. Very good.
ya que podemos trabajar en casa,
They are obedience exercises that we can work on at home, like this one that I just taught you. It's important to start and finish them. Let's keep in mind, for example, when entering the house, leaving home, when serving food, whom we greet first at home. For example, we come home from work and open the door. The first thing we find is the dog in our family. Then the first thing we have to keep in mind is who we greet first.
si tenemos un perro que nos está saltando,
If we have a dog that is jumping at us, that is barking at us, and we have a group of people, first we go past the dog, and if the dog has an excited attitude and is barking and jumping,
saltando,
if a dog jumps at us, we turn our backs on it. We do not reward that behavior.
porque el solo hecho de que nosotros
Because the mere fact that we pat the dog, we give them food to arrive and say how cool they are, and skip me, it's wrong.
está mal. ¿Listo? Entonces,
Rewarding a dog when it does an unwanted behavior is causing it to be reinforced and repeated.
refuerza y se repita. Entonces, lo que podemos hacer,
What we can do, for example, if the dog begins to jump when entering the house and barks at us,
ignoramos su
we ignore their demand. We continue, we greet the family in general.
familia en general. Cuando el perro está en calma,
When the dog is calm and in a more stable state, we greet them, pat them, and give them attention. This type of exercise is important,
ya que muchas conductas las personas
since for many behaviors, people seek training, trainers, ethnologists, and different professionals in the sense that each one has their specialty. Training works on certain things.
la otología trabaja lo que es el comportamiento.
Pathology works on animal behavior and correcting certain behaviors. It is also important to take into account when serving food at home. Always feed our dog as much as possible. Then we have lunch or we have breakfast and later our dog eats.
Lo desayunemos y posteriormente nuestro perro.
They do not have to receive everything first.
El hecho de que nosotros le entreguemos a él todo primero,
The fact that we give them everything first before the other people in the house is to increase their status. That we are talking to someone in the house and the dog is nibbling our clothes, jumping, demanding in some way, we pay attention to them.
y nosotros le prestemos atención acariciándolo y que cálmate.
Say calm down, don't do it, behave well. It's a way for us to reinforce that behavior. Let's remember that reinforcements, they are pats, words, food, toys.
Juguetes, todos hacen parte de un grupo de refuerzos.
All are part of a group of reinforcements, and when these are used at certain moments that are suddenly not appropriate, we cause the behavior or certain behaviors to be repeated. A clear example is,
Un ejemplo claro, si nosotros acostumbramos a sacar al perro,
we are used to taking the dog out, and when we open the door, the dog is used to putting on the dog collar, and later we go out with him. If our dog, when calling him out, starts jumping, getting excited,
a excitarse, a mordisquear,
nibbling and biting the collar, and what we do is remove it from them, then we are rewarding its behavior. It is something very important that we must take into account. They must take into account that dogs learn by association, they learn by imitation, observation.
También es presente que tengan importante,
It is important that they keep in mind that when dogs see a resource, such as food,
digamos, un recurso, por ejemplo, el alimento.
something that motivates them. For example, it is good to work with foods that it likes a lot, not work it with concentrate. Work it with chicken, with fruits, with snacks, with meat, and obviously chicken cooked in water without salt and onion, also meat in small pieces.
También es importante que
It is also important when our dog is demanding. For example, our dog is barking to demand attention.
exigirnos atención.
We don't look at it, we don't pat it, we don't pay it any kind of attention.
Las exigencias solamente
The demands only cause the dog to acquire more and more status. When a dog begins to bark at a person and the person, keep calm please, do not do that, they begin to pat it and pay some attention to it. The only thing that causes is for the behaviour to be repeated. Later, when that behaviour begins to have a total lack of control, what it generates is that the person is going to start saying, well, how do I solve this? When things have reached a certain level that they can no longer control, that is when problems begin to appear.
que nuestros perros, digamos, nosotros le creemos rutinas.
It is important that we create routines. An example, work the dog 15 minutes of obedience exercises. We work on it. We finish the exercise, we congratulate it for having worked with us, and that's it. Create daily routines where the dog works on self-control, exercises like sitting,
Como el sentado, ejercicios que creen vínculos.
which also create a bond with us, like, look at me, exercises where we have something that the dog likes a lot. Example, in this case, I have in my hand something that is very special. What is a special toy? It is something that we leave, as in the case of Mia, we leave it when I'm going to leave the house. I put some food inside it, and I leave it for her to play with.
Y lo dejo para que ella juegue con él. Digamos, se lo dejo. Entonces que ella lo encuentre.
I leave it for her to find in the house. When I go to leave, and so she sees it as something cool, like I found it, done. He left the house, but he's coming back. I still have something to have fun with.
Que divertirme. Tengo una pelota Kong.
I have a Kong ball, which for example has food inside it. I can play, chase it, and go with it daily to play, when I know that at least she
Luego cuando ya sé, por lo menos para que ocupe el tiempo en algo.
occupies her time with something while we are away. It is good for dogs to leave something for them to occupy their time.
Digamos, si nosotros vamos a salir por un tiempo prolongado,
If we are going out for a long time and the dog stays at home, leave something cool to distract them. We can work with.
podemos trabajar. Primero es importante que las pelotas Kong.
First, it's important that the Kong balls, when we leave them at home, it's not like I'm going to leave and throw it away, but rather that the dog finds it. Or for example, if Mia is with me and I'm going to leave in 10 minutes, I can leave the Kong ball in a place in the house where the dog hasn't seen it and I'll go.
Es importante. Y que el perro encuentre.
It's important that the dog finds a toy and plays with it, because it has food. They will move it. They will throw away the food. They think it is fun, and only this toy appears at that moment. We don't use it at other times, only when I am absent. It's important that she finds it, that I don't throw it at her and leave. That part is important.
También es importante que cuando trabajemos nuestro perro, mira.
It is important that when we work our dog, for example, I leave it in an accessible place. I have food. I'm going to do a basic exercise. We make the dog look at me for a moment. It is important that we have food in our hands, but not all the time. That we have food in our pockets, in our sling. For example, we will work for her to look at us.
Muy bien, chica. Y premiamos con la otra mano.
Very, very good girl. And we reward with the other hand.
Muy bien, chica.
We do the same, we attract attention with the other hand. Very good girl. That she sees that the prize came from another place, that it comes from a pocket. When we finish the exercise, very good Mia. Very good, well done. Flat pats that are positive. If the dog is not obedient and is not working well at the moment, it is that they are not very interested in the prize. We have to review what the dog likes. Improve the prize, improve that reinforcement.
Tres refuerzos que le gusten, digamos.
We must have at least 3 reinforcements that they like. It can be a snack, a fruit, and meat. Let's remember that when we train at home, we always show our dog that we are training and the exercise is over.
Siempre digamos que haya un tiempo de trabajo.
Whenever there is a time of training and a time when we get here and use an exercise or a special pat, like, well done, it's over, so that the dog associates that we have finished the exercise.
Es importante tener en cuenta
It is important to take into account at home, at the time when we are with our dogs,
momento en que nosotros estemos con nuestros perros, no todo el tiempo.
we must not get used to the fact that the dog is there with us all the time. An example, she is here with me right now, but a moment ago she was lying in the corner, resting. What we should not be reinforcing is that the dog is attached to us at all times.
Digamos, los perros deben tener su momento.
Dogs must have their time. That also has to do with status, that the dog has its area, its spaces in which it takes its time to play or rest, and we are in other activities. For example, if I'm here working,
Observando acá a nuestra, el horizonte,
looking at our horizon here, I am observing. I am doing something. Not all the time the dog has to be there, attached to me, touching me, nibbling, sticking their nose at me, jumping and barking, because that could be said that it is a requirement, that the dog wants to be close to me at all times, and that causes more serious problems, as they are long-term separation anxiety.
a largo plazo, cuando uno se ausenta,
When one leaves or is absent, our dog begins to have anxiety symptoms. We must keep this part in mind. All of this begins with that small situation, which is that the dog does not have its space,
no tiene su espacio, sino toda hora tiene que estar conmigo.
that at all times they have to be with me, that if I'm in the kitchen, they have to be with me, that if I'm in the bathroom, they're with me, that if I am in the room, or if I am in the bedroom, as long as we both have our spaces. It is important that at home, dogs must have their area, so that a dog can play, rest. We have our work area, and it is good that the dog comes to us, but when we call for it, for example, I decided to call her.
Muy bien, chica.
Mia, come. Very good. So I called her, she came, and I gave her a pat, which is a reinforcement, but not that she is there all the time, on top of me. We have to keep that part in mind. It is very different that I call the dog comes, and I award. Therefore,
Y otra cosa es que el perro,
another thing is that I am talking with a friend, here conversing, and a dog is on top, jumping, biting, barking, that he pays attention.
entonces es muy diferente el cuadro de que yo uso.
The command that I use to call them and congratulate them for coming is very different. Another is very different, that it is jumping at me and demanding that I pay attention to it. The fact that we pay attention to a dog that is jumping, touching us at all, now they are allowing the dog to gain more status at home.
Entonces eso tiene que ver con que reforzamos conductas.
That has to do with the fact that we reinforce unwanted behaviours. For example, if a dog barked at me here, conversing with them is incorrect, saying at all times, "Hey, shut up, no, don't do that." The dialogues are incorrect, they only reinforce the behaviours that's what it's used for. The first thing to do is ignore it. It's barking at me and demanding. I turn my back on it. I don't look at it, I don't touch it, I don't talk to it. It's important that reinforcements are not given at unwanted times. Thank you for your attention. Follow us on our networks. We are waiting for you. And you can consult more exercises which we continuously publish on our networks. Bye.
Chao.
First, it's important that the Kong balls, when we leave them at home, it's not like I'm going to leave and throw it away, but rather that the dog finds it, or for example, if Mia is with me and I'm going to leave in 10 minutes, I can leave the Kong ball in a place in the house where the dog hasn't seen it and I'll go. It's important that the dog finds the toy and plays with it, because it has food. They will move it. They will throw away the food. They think it is fun, and only this toy appears at that moment. We don't use it at other times, only when I am absent. It's important that she finds it, that I don't throw it at her and leave. That part is important.